Collision of worlds. The vast chamber aboard the Selenian mothership pulsed with an ethereal blue light, casting long shadows across the ornate floor where Queen Vexoria stood motionless. Her 7-foot frame was draped in ceremonial armor that shimmered like liquid metal, catching and reflecting the starlight that filtered through the massive viewport. The space beyond showed a glittering tapestry of stars and the faint blue crescent of Earth in the distance. "You are certain of this, Oracle?" Vexoria's voice was melodic yet commanding, carrying the weight of a ruler who had led her people through centuries of interstellar expansion. Before her, an ancient Selenian with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that swirled with cosmic energy bowed deeply. "The stars do not lie, my queen. For 10 generations, our seers have predicted this moment. Your destined mate walks among the humans, and with your union, the Selenian bloodline will be strengthened beyond measure." Queen Vexoria's 6-fingered hand tightened around her scepter, the crystal at its tip flaring briefly with her agitation. "Humans are primitive, Oracle. They have barely touched the stars. How could one of them possibly be worthy?" "Not primitive, my queen. Different. Their bodies are fragile, but their spirits burn with an intensity our kind has lost over the millennia. This is why the prophecy speaks of balance. What we lack, they possess." Vexoria turned to gaze at the distant Earth. Her species had observed humanity for centuries from afar, watching as they evolved from warring tribes to a spacefaring civilization. Still young, still chaotic, still passionate in ways the long-lived Selenians had forgotten. "What is the name of this human?" she finally asked. "The stars show only that he is a creator, a builder of things. You will know him when your paths cross." The oracle paused. "However, there is more. The prophecy speaks of resistance, of conflict before harmony. The human worlds will not surrender one of their own without challenge." Vexoria's lips curled into what humans might interpret as a smile, revealing teeth too perfectly aligned to be natural. "Then we shall give them a challenge worthy of remembrance." Nathaniel Reed had always found peace in the mechanical. Where human relationships were complex and unpredictable, machines were logical. They might break, but they could be fixed with the right tools, the right knowledge. Unlike hearts. Unlike trust. He stood in the vast engineering bay of New Horizon, Earth's largest orbital colony, hands deep in the guts of a malfunctioning atmospheric regulator. At 34, he was the youngest lead engineer in the colony's history, respected for his innovative solutions and unmatched work ethic. "Reed, you planning to sleep here again?" The voice belonged to Captain Eliza Okafor, her dark uniform crisp despite the late hour. Nathaniel didn't look up from his work. "Sleep's overrated when the filters are running at 80% efficiency. People breathe at 100%, last I checked." Eliza leaned against a nearby console. "The Admiral's asking for you. Something about those anomalous readings from the outer sensor array." Now Nathaniel did look up, his hands stilling. "They're back? Stronger this time. Configurations unlike anything in our database." Nathaniel wiped his hands on a rag, mind already shifting gears. For the past 3 weeks, the deep space sensors had been picking up unusual energy signatures just beyond Pluto's orbit. Patterns too regular to be natural, too complex to be coincidental. "I'll be right there." The command center was a hive of controlled chaos when Nathaniel arrived. Screens displayed star charts, energy readings, and communication channels all flashing with activity. At the center of it all stood Admiral Victor Harmon, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "Reed," the Admiral acknowledged. "Tell me what we're looking at." Nathaniel studied the data, his brow furrowing. "The energy signature is consistent with some kind of propulsion system, but it's nothing like our ion drives or fusion engines. There's a coherence to it. Like the energy is being woven rather than expelled." "Woven," the Admiral repeated flatly. "That's not very scientific, Reed." Neither is ignoring the possibility that we're not alone anymore, Nathaniel replied, eyes still on the readings. Whatever this is, it's big, it's advanced, and it's headed our way. As if to punctuate his statement, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. The main screen flickered and then displayed a sight that humanity had speculated about for centuries but never truly prepared for, a fleet of massive ships, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent sheen that seemed to bend light around them, had appeared just beyond the moon's orbit. How the hell did they get past our early warning systems? Someone shouted. Nathaniel could only stare in a mixture of awe and dread. Because they didn't need to. They didn't travel through the space between our sensors. They just arrived. The Admiral's voice cut through the chaos. Battle stations. All personnel to emergency protocols. Read, I need options. But before anyone could move, every screen in the command center went blank, then filled with the image of a being that was both eerily similar to human and undeniably alien. Female in appearance, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies within its depth, eyes like liquid silver, and a regal bearing that commanded attention. People of Earth, the being spoke, her voice resonating in a way that seemed to bypass the speakers and vibrate directly in their minds. I am Queen Vexoria of the Selenian Empire. We come in search of one among you. Provide this individual willingly, and your worlds will remain untouched. Resist, and we will demonstrate why the Selenian Empire spans galaxies while you have barely left your cradle. The image shifted to show a holographic representation of a human male. Though the face was obscured, the build and posture were unmistakable to everyone in the room. It was Nathaniel Reed. This is insane. Nathaniel paced the length of the Admiral's private office, his mind racing. Why would an advanced alien species cross who knows how many light years for? Me? Admiral Harmon sat heavily in his chair, looking older than he had just hours ago. The question isn't why, Reed. It's what we're going to do about it. You can't possibly be considering handing me over. Nathaniel stopped pacing to stare at the Admiral. No, of course not, Harmon rubbed his temples. But we're also not in a position to engage in interstellar warfare with a civilization that can apparently fold space itself. We need time. Captain Okafor, who had been silently standing by the door, stepped forward. What if Reed goes as an envoy? Not a captive, but as Earth's representative to understand their intentions. Nathaniel barked a laugh without humor. Ambassador to my own abduction? Fantastic. It's not ideal, Eliza acknowledged, but it gives us intelligence we desperately need, and it prevents immediate conflict. The Admiral nodded slowly. It might be our best option. Reed, you'd be fitted with tracking and communication devices. At the first sign of danger, we extract you, consequences be damned. Nathaniel ran a hand through his dark hair, his mind calculating possibilities and outcomes as he always did with engineering problems. Except this wasn't a broken machine. This was his life, and potentially the safety of Earth. I need to know what they want from me first, he finally said. Arrange communication. The meeting was set aboard a neutral vessel, one of Earth's diplomatic shuttles positioned halfway between New Horizon and the Selenian mothership. Nathaniel sat stiffly in the shuttle's conference room, surrounded by a small security detail that he knew would be useless if the aliens decided to take him by force. When Queen Vexoria transported onto the shuttle, the air itself seemed to vibrate. She was taller in person, her presence filling the room in a way that had nothing to do with her physical size. Two guards flanked her, their armor similar to hers but less ornate, their expressions unreadable. Nathaniel Reed, she spoke his name as if tasting it, her silver eyes studying him with unsettling intensity. The stars have guided me to you. Nathaniel struggled to maintain his composure. With all due respect, Your Majesty, I'm an engineer, not a celestial appointment. What exactly do you want from me? Direct, Vexoria's lips curved slightly. This is good. I require you to return with me to my homeworld as my consort. The bluntness of her statement left the room in stunned silence. Nathaniel blinked several times before finding his voice. Your consort? You crossed interstellar space to, what, propose? It is more than a mere joining. One of Vexoria's guards stepped forward, his tone suggesting offense. You have been chosen to strengthen the royal bloodline, to bring new vigor to our species. It is the highest honor any being could receive. Nathaniel felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. And if I decline this honor? Vexoria tilted her head slightly, the movement too precise to be human. The prophecy does not allow for declination, Nathaniel read. You are my destined mate. This is not a question of choice, but of cosmic alignment. In my culture, Nathaniel said carefully, forcing someone into a relationship has another name. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees as Vexoria's eyes narrowed. You misunderstand. I do not force. I fulfill destiny. As will you, once you comprehend the magnitude of what is offered. My queen, the second guard murmured, perhaps the human requires time to process. Their lifespans are brief, their understanding evolves slowly. Vexoria considered this, then nodded once. Very well. 3 of your Earth days to prepare yourself, Nathaniel read. Then you will join me, and we shall begin the journey to your new home among the stars. With that, she and her guards disappeared in a shimmer of light, leaving behind only a lingering scent like ozone and jasmine. Captain Okafor, who had been silently observing from the corner, let out a breath. Well, that went differently than expected. Nathaniel stared at the empty space where Vexoria had stood. She thinks I'm her soulmate because some stars told her so. How is this happening? The real question, Eliza said quietly, is what happens in 3 days when she comes to collect what she believes is already hers. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of emergency meetings, failed diplomatic communications, and increasingly desperate strategizing. Earth's united military forces moved into defensive positions, knowing full well they stood little chance against the technology they'd glimpsed. Scientists and engineers, led by Nathaniel, worked feverishly to understand the little data they had on Selenian capabilities. On the personal front, Nathaniel barely slept. His mind kept returning to Vexoria, her absolute certainty, the way she looked at him as if she could see through flesh to whatever essence she believed made him her cosmic match. It was during one of these sleepless nights, buried in his lab with holographic star charts projected around him, that he came to a decision. You're going to accept, Eliza said from the doorway. It wasn't a question. Nathaniel didn't look up. If I don't, she'll take me anyway, and people will die in the process. That's the rational explanation. Eliza stepped into the lab, closing the door behind her. What's the real reason? Now Nathaniel did look up, his expression a mixture of resignation and something else, something that might have been curiosity. In all my life, I've never been certain of anything the way she is certain of me. What if there is something to this prophecy? What if by going willingly, I learn something that helps humanity in the long run? That's a lot of what-ifs to bet your life on. Maybe, Nathaniel conceded. But engineering is all about calculated risks. And right now, the calculation says I go with her. Eliza studied him for a long moment. The Admiral won't like it. The Admiral is a practical man. He'll understand that one life, even mine, isn't worth risking billions. You're assuming she'll keep her word not to harm Earth once she has you. Nathaniel's gaze returned to the star charts. I'm not assuming anything. I'm buying time. For all of us. On the morning of the 3rd day, Nathaniel stood in the largest hangar bay of New Horizon. He wore a simple uniform, stripped of all but the most essential equipment that the Selenians had approved. Hidden within his clothing were several devices that even their advanced scans would hopefully miss: emergency beacons, data recorders, and a small but powerful transmitter developed specifically for this mission. Admiral Harmon approached, his expression grim. "The Selenian shuttle is approaching. Last chance to reconsider." "We both know there's no better option," Nathaniel replied. "Just make sure the data I send back doesn't go to waste." The Admiral nodded once, then extended his hand. "Godspeed, Reed. However this plays out, what you're doing is nothing short of heroic." As they shook hands, the massive hangar doors began to open, revealing a small craft of Selenian design hovering just beyond the atmospheric barrier. It was elegant and seamless, more like a living thing than a constructed vessel. The craft entered the hangar and settled gently on the deck. A doorway appeared in its smooth side, not opening so much as simply coming into existence where none had been before. Queen Vexoria emerged, this time dressed in what appeared to be more casual attire, though still unmistakably royal. She approached Nathaniel with the same confident grace she had displayed in their first meeting. "You have chosen wisely, Nathaniel Reed," she said, her voice carrying easily despite the vastness of the hangar. "I've chosen to prevent a conflict," he corrected. "That's all this is." Something like amusement flickered across Vexoria's alien features. "For now, perhaps. But the stars are patient, as am I." She extended her hand, the gesture surprisingly human. After a moment's hesitation, Nathaniel took it. Her skin was warmer than he expected, and seemed to pulse slightly with an inner light. "Your world will remain untouched," she addressed both Nathaniel and the Admiral. "This I swear by the ancient compact of the Selenian throne. In return, Nathaniel Reed comes with me of his own accord, to fulfill the destiny written in the cosmos." Without waiting for a response, she turned, still holding Nathaniel's hand, and led him toward the shuttle. He followed, back straight, eyes forward, the weight of billions of lives pressing down on his shoulders with each step. As they reached the threshold of the alien craft, Nathaniel paused and looked back at the hangar, at the faces of his fellow humans watching with a mixture of fear, awe, and hope. In that moment, he made a silent promise, not just to return, but to understand. To learn everything he could about these Selenians, their technology, their intentions. And perhaps, though he would admit this to no one, to discover if there was any truth to Vexoria's certainty that the stars had somehow bound their fates together. With a deep breath, he stepped aboard the shuttle, and the doorway sealed behind him, vanishing as if it had never existed. The journey had begun. Bonds of destiny. The interior of the Selenian mothership defied Nathaniel's expectations. Instead of the sterile, mechanical environment he had anticipated, he found himself surrounded by what appeared to be living architecture. Walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins, floors responded to footsteps by subtly adjusting their firmness, and doorways parted like living membranes rather than sliding or swinging open. Nathaniel struggled to maintain his composure as Queen Vexoria led him through corridors that seemed to stretch and contract with their passage. His engineer's mind raced, cataloging every detail, every glimpse of technology that might be useful to humanity when he returned home. "Your thoughts are loud, Nathaniel Reed," Vexoria said without turning to look at him. "You observe with such intensity." "Professional habit," he replied, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I've spent my life understanding how things work." Vexoria paused at an intersection where three corridors met in a spiraling junction. "And that is part of why the stars chose you. The Selenian mind seeks harmony, balance, acceptance. Your kind constantly questions, dissects, reimagines. It is a quality we have lost over millennia of existence." Before Nathaniel could respond, two tall Selenians approached. Unlike the guards who had accompanied Vexoria during their first meeting, these wore flowing robes embroidered with what appeared to be star maps. "My queen," the first one bowed deeply, eyes deliberately avoiding Nathaniel. "The Council of Elders requests your presence." "And the human's absence, I presume?" Vexoria's tone remained pleasant, but Nathaniel detected a subtle edge. The council believes it would be premature to introduce an outsider to such proceedings, the second robed figure said carefully. Vexoria's eyes narrowed slightly. Nathaniel Reed is not an outsider. He is my chosen consort, as foretold in the astral prophecy. The council would do well to remember this. An uncomfortable silence followed. Nathaniel cleared his throat. Actually, I could use some time to acclimate. If there's somewhere I could rest and process all this? Vexoria studied him for a moment, then nodded. Wise. The journey ahead requires strength. She gestured to one of the ever-present guards stationed along the corridor. Tell us, we'll show you to your quarters. I shall join you when council matters are concluded. As Vexoria departed with the robed officials, Nathaniel caught a glimpse of whispered conversation, the second robed figure gesturing emphatically as they disappeared around a corner. This way, human, the guard, tell us, said stiffly. Nathaniel followed, noting the guard's tense posture. Not everyone's happy about my presence here, I take it? Tell us remained silent for several paces before responding. The prophecy is sacred, but interpretations vary. Some believe the Queen has been hasty in her identification of you as the chosen one. That makes two of us, Nathaniel muttered. The quarters assigned to Nathaniel were more like a luxury apartment, with sweeping views of space through what appeared to be living glass that could become opaque or transparent at his command. The furnishings were alien but surprisingly comfortable, adapting to his human physiology when he sat or reclined. Once alone, Nathaniel immediately began searching for surveillance devices. Finding none he could identify, which meant little with technology this advanced, he activated the smallest of his hidden transmitters, sending a brief status report back to Earth. The message was simple: alive. Aboard mothership. No immediate threat. Gathering intel. He had just concealed the device again when a section of wall rippled and a Selenian entered. Unlike those he had seen so far, this one was shorter, with features that seemed younger somehow, though Nathaniel had no real way to judge Selenian age. I am Lyra, she announced, placing a hand over her chest in what might have been a greeting. The Queen has assigned me as your cultural liaison. I am to help you understand our ways while you adjust to your new position. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. My position is still very much under discussion as far as I'm concerned. Lyra tilted her head, the movement reminding him uncomfortably of Vexoria. The stars do not mislead, human. If you are here, there is purpose to it. I'm here to prevent a war, Nathaniel corrected. Nothing more. Perhaps that is part of your purpose, Lyra conceded. But perhaps not all of it. She gestured to a circular platform in the center of the room. Would you care to learn about the Selenians while you wait for the Queen's return? Curiosity, and the mission parameters to gather as much information as possible, won out over Nathaniel's reservations. All right. Show me. Lyra touched the platform, and it illuminated, projecting a three-dimensional stellar map. Our empire spans 7 galaxies, she began, manipulating the display to zoom through vast stretches of space. We were travelers before your species had discovered fire, explorers when your kind still believed the stars were holes in the night sky. The display shifted, showing beings that resembled Vexoria and the other Selenians, but with subtle differences, less elongated limbs, skin that appeared more solid, less cosmic. We were not always as you see us now, Lyra continued. Over generations, as our understanding of the universe expanded, so too did our physical forms evolve. We learned to manipulate the very essence of matter, to bend space to our will, to extend our lifespans beyond natural limitations. You engineered your own evolution, Nathaniel observed. We guided it, Lyra corrected. Working in harmony with the natural forces of the cosmos rather than against them. The display shifted again, showing what appeared to be temples or observatories built on worlds unlike any Nathaniel had seen, crystal deserts, ocean planets with floating cities, gas giants with habitats suspended in their atmospheres. And yet, for all our advancements, we began to stagnate. Lyra's voice grew quieter. Physical immortality brought complacency. Perfect harmony led to predictability. Creation without chaos became formulaic. Nathaniel found himself drawn into the history despite his skepticism. So what changed? The astral prophecy, Lyra said, as the display shifted to show ancient-looking texts written in flowing script. Received by our greatest seer 1,000 of your years ago. It foretold that the Selenian people would reach a crossroads, continue as we were and slowly fade into cosmic irrelevance, or introduce new vigor into our bloodline through union with a younger, more chaotic species. Humans, Nathaniel said flatly. Not merely humans, Lyra corrected. One specific human, born under a particular alignment of stars, possessing qualities our people have lost: curiosity, adaptability, and what you might call intuitive problem-solving. The display changed again, showing a DNA-like structure, though far more complex than human genetics. The prophecy stated that this union would create offspring who would inherit the best of both species, our longevity and cosmic awareness combined with human innovation and drive. Nathaniel felt a chill run through him. So I'm basically here as a glorified sperm donor for some eugenics program? Lyra looked genuinely shocked. That is a crude and inaccurate interpretation. The union foretold is one of equals, of complementary souls. The offspring are a consequence, not the purpose. Before Nathaniel could respond, he felt a subtle vibration through the floor. Lyra straightened immediately, the display disappearing. The Queen returns, she said, moving toward the doorway. And she is disturbed. When Vexoria entered Nathaniel's quarters, the air itself seemed to crackle with her agitation. Gone was the serene confidence she had displayed earlier, replaced by a tightly controlled anger that made the bioluminescent veins in the walls pulse erratically. The council questions my judgment, she announced without preamble. They doubt the prophecy's timing, suggesting I have acted prematurely in bringing you here. Nathaniel, who had been preparing to confront her about what Lyra had revealed, found himself momentarily disarmed by her obvious distress. Maybe they have a point. This all seems rather rushed from where I'm standing. Vexoria's silver eyes fixed on him. You do not understand. The stars aligned perfectly when I found you, a convergence that happens once in 10 generations. If I had waited. She shook her head. Some on the council wish to perform tests, to verify you are indeed the one foretold. Tests. Nathaniel's guard went back up. What kind of tests? Invasive ones, Vexoria said grimly. Genetic sampling, neural mapping, spiritual resonance scans. She moved closer to him, and Nathaniel resisted the urge to step back. I will not permit it. The prophecy speaks clearly. You are my destined mate, not a specimen to be dissected by skeptics. And what about what I want? Nathaniel challenged. Does the prophecy mention anything about my consent in all this? Something flickered across Vexoria's face, an emotion Nathaniel couldn't quite identify. The prophecy speaks of reluctance overcome, of understanding gradually attained. She paused. But it does not speak of force. Never force. Before Nathaniel could respond, an alarm blared through the ship, a pulsing sound that seemed to reverberate through the living walls. Vexoria stiffened. Earth vessels approach, she said, moving toward the door. Many of them, with weapons active. Nathaniel felt his heart sink. They're coming for me. They will not succeed, Vexoria stated, not as a threat but as a simple fact. Your presence here is ordained by forces beyond their comprehension. People will die, Nathaniel argued, following her as she strode through the corridors. My people. Your people. All because of some ancient star reading that may or may not even apply to me. Vexoria did not slow her pace. If they attack, they choose their fate. Then let me talk to them, Nathaniel insisted as they entered what appeared to be the ship's command center, a vast chamber where dozens of Selenians worked at stations that seemed grown rather than built. Let me explain the situation. Vexoria hesitated, then gestured to what might have been a communications array. Speak then. But know that I will protect what is mine. Nathaniel chose to ignore the possessive statement for now. Open a channel to the lead Earth vessel. The screen before them flickered, then displayed Admiral Harmon's face, his expression hard with determination. Read. Are you all right? I'm fine, Admiral, Nathaniel assured him. But you need to stand down. Your weapons can't penetrate their defenses, and they can destroy your entire fleet with minimal effort. We detected a distress signal from your location, the Admiral replied. Combined with the sudden movement of the alien fleet toward Earth orbit, we had to assume the worst. Nathaniel frowned. He had sent no distress signal, only a status report. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm here voluntarily, as agreed. Vexoria stepped into view of the transmission. Your forces approach with hostile intent, Admiral. This violates our agreement. On the screen, Harmon's expression darkened. Our agreement was predicated on Reed's safety and freedom. We have reason to believe neither is being honored. What reason? Nathaniel demanded. I just told you I'm fine. A new voice spoke from off-screen, and then Captain Eliza Okafor moved into view. The transmission we received contained embedded distress codes, Nathaniel. And it came from inside your personal quarters. Realization dawned on Nathaniel. Someone had tampered with his transmitter, altering his message. But who? And why? Vexoria turned to him, her silver eyes now hard with suspicion. You sent a communication without my knowledge. A status report, as arranged before I left, Nathaniel admitted. But I sent no distress signal. The tension in the command center was palpable. Selenian officers moved to battle stations, their movements fluid but purposeful. I need time to sort this out, Nathaniel said, addressing both Vexoria and the Earth commanders. Admiral, stand down your forces. I give you my word that I'm not under duress. We have our orders, Reed, Harmon replied grimly. If you don't return with us now, we are authorized to take more decisive action. Vexoria's voice was cold. Any aggression against this vessel will be met with force sufficient to end the threat permanently. Nathaniel could see the situation spiraling toward disaster. Billions of lives hanging in the balance because of miscommunication, distrust, and an ancient prophecy he still wasn't convinced had anything to do with him. There's another option, he said suddenly. A third path. All eyes turned to him, human and Selenian alike. The prophecy speaks of union between our species, Nathaniel continued, thinking rapidly. Not conquest, not submission, but partnership. What if instead of me going with you or returning to Earth, we establish a formal diplomatic exchange? Representatives from both sides, working together to understand each other. One of the robed Selenians who had summoned Vexoria earlier stepped forward. The prophecy speaks specifically of a union between the Queen and the chosen human. Not diplomats and committees. Prophecies are often metaphorical, Nathaniel argued. What if the union isn't just between two individuals, but between our species as a whole? Vexoria studied him intently. You seek to reinterpret the sacred texts to avoid your personal role in them. I seek to prevent a war, Nathaniel corrected. And to give both sides time to understand what's really happening here. He turned back to the screen. Admiral, I'm requesting that you withdraw to a safe distance and send a diplomatic delegation instead. One that includes xenobiologists, cultural experts, and actual diplomats. Harmon frowned. And if these aliens refuse? We will consider the humans' proposal, Vexoria announced before Nathaniel could respond. Council Elder Theros will oversee preparations for receiving Earth delegates. The elder who had spoken earlier looked as if he might object, then bowed stiffly. As my queen commands. Nathaniel felt a surge of relief. Admiral? Harmon exchanged looks with Captain Okafor, then nodded reluctantly. 48 hours, read. If we don't see significant progress by then, we proceed as planned. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. You manipulate skillfully, Nathaniel Reed, Vexoria observed, her tone unreadable. Another quality my people have lost. I'm not manipulating anyone, he insisted. I'm trying to find a solution that doesn't end with people dying. Your concern for life is admirable, she said. But do not think this changes the ultimate outcome. The stars have bound us together. This diplomatic interlude merely provides time for you to accept this truth. Nathaniel decided not to argue the point. He had bought precious time and potentially averted immediate conflict. Now he needed to uncover who had tampered with his transmission, and why. The diplomatic preparations kept both sides busy for the next 24 hours. Nathaniel found himself acting as an impromptu cultural advisor, helping the Selenians understand human protocols and expectations. Meanwhile, he seized every opportunity to explore more of the mothership, gathering intelligence while trying to appear merely curious. It was during one such exploration, guided by Lyra, that he discovered something unsettling. They had entered what Lyra called the Hall of Seers, a vast chamber where historical prophecies were recorded and studied. The walls were covered in the same flowing script Nathaniel had seen in the holographic display, illuminated by a soft light that seemed to emanate from within the material itself. These are the collected prophecies of our greatest seers, Lyra explained. Dating back 12,000 of your years. Nathaniel moved closer to examine the writing. And the one about me, us, where is it recorded? Lyra led him to a section near the center of the hall. Here is the astral prophecy that foretold your coming. Nathaniel studied the alien text, wishing he could read it directly rather than relying on translations. What exactly does it say? Word for word. Lyra hesitated briefly. The exact translation is difficult, as your language lacks certain concepts, but approximately, when the 7 stars align with the ancient heart, the Queen of Stars shall find her counterpart in the realm of chaos. Their union shall bridge worlds and bring forth children of 2 natures, who shall lead the Selenian people into a new era of growth and change. That's it? Nathaniel frowned. Nothing specific about me or Earth or humans in general? The realm of chaos has long been interpreted to mean Earth, Lyra explained. Your species' unpredictable nature, your constant conflict and change, these align with our concept of cosmic chaos. Nathaniel was unconvinced. It seems awfully vague to justify interstellar abduction. There is more, Lyra admitted. Supplementary visions received by later seers that added detail to the original prophecy. She moved to another section of wall. Here it speaks of the chosen one possessing hands that create and remake, a mind that questions the unquestionable, and a spirit unbound by the laws of harmony. As Nathaniel examined this section, he noticed something odd, a subtle difference in the script compared to the surrounding text. This part looks newer somehow. Lyra blinked in what might have been surprise. You have a perceptive eye for one unfamiliar with our writing. Yes, this clarification was added more recently, based on visions received by Seer Marius approximately 50 of your years ago. Marius, Nathaniel repeated. Is he still alive? Yes, Lyra said. He serves on the Council of Elders now. It is rare for a seer to live long enough to join the council, but his visions have proven exceptionally accurate. A suspicion began to form in Nathaniel's mind. This Marius, he wouldn't happen to be one of the robed officials who were so opposed to my presence here, would he? Lyra's discomfort was now evident. Elder Marius has expressed concerns about the Queen's interpretation of his visions. Nathaniel turned to face her fully. Lyra, I need to speak with Vexoria. Immediately. Nathaniel found Vexoria in her private observatory, a dome-like structure at the very top of the mothership, where the barrier between interior and space seemed almost non-existent. Stars surrounded them on all sides, giving the impression of floating in the void. You've discovered something, she said without turning, her gaze fixed on the distant Earth. I think someone has been manipulating events, Nathaniel said, moving to stand beside her. Someone who might have tampered with my transmission to create conflict. Now Vexoria did turn to face him. Explain. Nathaniel told her about his discoveries in the Hall of Seers, about the newer additions to the prophecy, and about Elder Marius's role as both seer and council member. You believe Marius falsified prophetic visions? Vexoria's voice was dangerously quiet. I don't know about falsified, Nathaniel said carefully. But conveniently interpreted, perhaps. Has anyone else independently verified that I'm this chosen one? Vexoria was silent for a long moment. Prophecy interpretation is not a precise science, even among my people. The convergence of the 7 stars when I found you, the alignment was as the ancient texts described. But the specific details about who I am, what I do, those came from Marius, Nathaniel pressed. Why would a respected elder deceive the throne? Vexoria questioned, though Nathaniel could see doubt beginning to form in her silver eyes. Power? Political gain? I don't know enough about Selenian politics to guess, Nathaniel admitted. But I do know that someone altered my transmission to make it appear as if I was in danger, and that someone wants conflict between our species. Vexoria moved to a control panel that seemed to grow from the floor itself. There is one way to be certain. She manipulated the controls, and a section of the observatory wall parted. Come. We will consult the oracle. The oracle chamber was unlike anything else Nathaniel had seen aboard the ship. While the rest of the vessel felt alive, organic, this space seemed ancient and almost primitive by comparison. Stone-like material formed a circular chamber, with a pool of what appeared to be liquid starlight at its center. The ancient Selenian Nathaniel had glimpsed in his first introduction to Vexoria, the one she had called Oracle, stood on the far side of the pool, looking even more frail in person. My queen, the oracle bowed. And the human? I sense turmoil. We seek clarity, Vexoria stated. About the prophecy, about Nathaniel Reed's role, and about Elder Marius's interpretations. The oracle's swirling eyes fixed on Nathaniel with uncomfortable intensity. Approach the pool, human. Nathaniel glanced at Vexoria, who nodded encouragingly. He stepped forward until he stood at the edge of the liquid starlight. Extend your hand over the waters, the oracle instructed. Do not touch, merely let your essence be sensed. Feeling slightly foolish but seeing no reason to refuse, Nathaniel held his hand palm down over the pool. The liquid below began to shimmer more intensely, tiny motes of light rising like fireflies to swirl around his fingers. The oracle closed his eyes. Interesting. Most interesting. What do you see? Vexoria demanded. A connection, yes, the oracle murmured. But not as Marius described. Not a mate bound by cosmic law, but a catalyst. A transformer. The oracle's eyes opened suddenly, fixing on Nathaniel. You are not here to continue our bloodline, human. You are here to challenge it. To change us. That contradicts the prophecy, Vexoria said sharply. It contradicts Marius's additions, the oracle corrected. The original text speaks only of union and transformation. It was Marius who insisted this meant a genetic merging, who steered your search toward specific traits he claimed would be found in your destined mate. Nathaniel withdrew his hand from over the pool, the implications of the oracle's words sinking in. So I'm not actually bound to Vexoria by some cosmic destiny? Your paths are connected, the oracle said enigmatically. But not in the manner Marius would have you believe. Vexoria's face had gone completely still, a stillness that Nathaniel was beginning to recognize as the Selenian equivalent of intense emotion. Marius has served the throne for centuries. Why would he mislead me in this? The oracle's expression was grim. Perhaps we should ask him. The confrontation took place in the council chamber, a vast space where 13 Selenian elders sat in a semicircle facing a central platform where Vexoria now stood, with Nathaniel at her side. The walls were lined with guards, their posture suggesting they anticipated trouble. Elder Marius, Vexoria's voice rang through the chamber. You stand accused of deliberately misinterpreting prophecy to manipulate the throne. How do you answer? The elder in question, distinguished by robes more ornate than his fellows, rose slowly. His face betrayed no emotion, but Nathaniel noticed his long fingers twitching slightly at his sides. My queen, these accusations are baseless, Marius replied smoothly. My visions have guided the Selenian people faithfully for centuries. Then you will not object to submitting to the pool of truth, the oracle said, stepping forward from the shadows where he had been waiting. For the first time, Marius's composure faltered. The pool is an ancient relic, unreliable in modern times. Surely my word as elder and seer is sufficient? It was, Vexoria said coldly. Until now. The tension in the chamber was palpable. Nathaniel watched as the other council members exchanged glances, clearly uncertain where to stand in this unexpected conflict. This is unnecessary, Marius insisted. The prophecy is clear. The human's presence here fulfills the ancient words. I've seen the ancient words, Nathaniel spoke up. They're remarkably open to interpretation. Marius's gaze snapped to him, and for an instant, Nathaniel saw naked hatred in those alien eyes. You know nothing of our ways, human. Your presence here is itself a desecration. That's not what you said in your visions, Nathaniel countered. According to those, I'm supposed to be the salvation of your species. Enough, Vexoria commanded. Guards, escort Elder Marius to the oracle's chamber for truth testing. The guards moved forward, but Marius was faster than his aged appearance suggested. From within his robes, he produced a small device that pulsed with energy. I had hoped to avoid this, he said, his voice suddenly harder, colder. The natural union of our species was preferable, but if force is required, so be it. He activated the device, and a shimmering field expanded around him. At the same moment, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The Earth fleet approaches again, one of the council members announced. Weapons active, attack formation. Nathaniel's blood ran cold. What have you done? Marius smiled, a chilling expression on his alien features. Merely sent another message in your name, human. One that will ensure your people strike first, and suffer the consequences. Vexoria moved with blinding speed, her hand shooting out to grab Marius by the throat despite the energy fields surrounding him. Her royal armor, which Nathaniel had assumed was decorative, began to glow with power. You would condemn billions to death, she hissed. For what purpose? Marius, despite being physically restrained, maintained his cold smile. For the future of our people. Humans are a plague upon the cosmos, spreading chaos wherever they go. The prophecy does not speak of partnership, it speaks of absorption. Of taking their strength and making it our own. You're talking about conquest, Nathaniel realized. Not union. You want to provoke a war that decimates Earth, then step in to save the survivors, making them dependent on Selenian authority. The strong rule the weak, Marius confirmed. It is the way of the universe. No, the oracle stepped forward. It is your way, Marius. Not the Selenian way. Vexoria turned to Nathaniel, her expression urgent. We must stop the attack. Your people believe they are defending you from abduction or worse. They will fire upon this vessel, and the automated defense systems will retaliate with force that will devastate their fleet. Nathaniel's mind raced. Can you disable the defense systems? Not in time, Vexoria said grimly. They are integrated into the ship's core functions. Then let me speak to them again, Nathaniel insisted. If I can convince Admiral Harmon that I'm acting of my own free will. They will not believe you, Marius interrupted, still held in Vexoria's grip. The message I sent included falsified evidence of your torture. They come not just to rescue, but to avenge. Nathaniel felt despair threatening to overwhelm him. Everything he had tried to prevent was happening anyway, manipulated by a being who saw his entire species as nothing more than resources to be exploited. Then an idea struck him, desperate, possibly suicidal, but the only option left. There's one way they'll believe me, he said. If I go to them in person. He turned to Vexoria. Do you have a small craft I can take? Something that won't be perceived as a threat? Vexoria hesitated. Yes, but their weapons are already locked on our position. They may fire before recognizing you. It's a risk I have to take, Nathaniel said firmly. Billions of lives depend on it. For a long moment, Vexoria studied him, her silver eyes unreadable. Then, to Nathaniel's surprise, she released Marius, shoving him toward the waiting guards. Confine him, she ordered. Then prepare my personal shuttle. She turned back to Nathaniel. We will go together. Your Majesty, one of the council members objected. The risk is unacceptable. If Earth forces destroy your shuttle. If they destroy my shuttle with me aboard, Vexoria cut him off, then you will know that Marius was right about humans all along. But I do not believe he is. She looked at Nathaniel again. I believe in the prophecy, the true prophecy. Our paths are connected, Nathaniel read. Let us discover how. The shuttle was small but elegant, like everything Selenian. As it detached from the mothership and moved toward the approaching Earth fleet, Nathaniel felt a strange calm descend over him. After days of confusion and tension, the path forward was suddenly clear. They're locking weapons on us, he observed, watching the tactical display. Vexoria nodded. Expected. We are broadcasting identification signals, but they may ignore them in their current state. Nathaniel activated the communication system. This is Nathaniel Reed to Earth Fleet. Hold your fire. Repeat, hold your fire. Queen Vexoria and I are aboard this shuttle to establish direct communication. For several tense seconds, there was no response. The shuttle continued its approach, and Nathaniel could see the weapons ports on the lead Earth vessel glowing with charged energy. Then, finally, Reed? Is that really you? Admiral Harmon's voice crackled through the speakers. It's me, Admiral, Nathaniel confirmed. And I'm here voluntarily. We've uncovered a plot by a rogue Selenian elder to provoke war between our species. The evidence you received of my mistreatment was falsified. Another voice joined the channel, Captain Okafor. We received video footage, Nathaniel. It was convincing. It was manufactured, Vexoria spoke for the first time. By one who wished to see our peoples destroy each other for his own ambition. There was a pause, and Nathaniel could imagine the Earth commanders conferring off-channel. We're sending coordinates for a rendezvous point, Admiral Harmon finally said. Come alone, Reed. The alien stays in the shuttle. No, Nathaniel said firmly. Queen Vexoria comes with me. This is about establishing trust between our species. It starts now. Another pause, longer this time. Then, approach Bay 3. Both of you will be scanned and escorted at all times. Understood, Nathaniel agreed, relief washing over him. As they adjusted course toward the designated bay, Vexoria turned to him. You argued for my inclusion despite your commander's wishes. Why? Nathaniel considered the question. Because I've spent the last 3 days learning about your people, your culture. There's so much potential for both our species if we can move past fear and suspicion. And yet you still do not believe in the prophecy that brought us together, Vexoria observed. Nathaniel smiled slightly. Let's just say I'm open to the possibility that the universe works in more complex ways than either of our species fully understands. The Earth vessel loomed before them now, its docking bay opening to receive their shuttle. As they prepared to land, Vexoria placed her hand lightly on Nathaniel's arm. Whatever comes next, she said quietly, know that you have acted with honor and courage worthy of any Selenian. High praise, Nathaniel replied with a small smile. But I'd settle for not starting an interstellar war. Peace between our peoples would indeed be a worthy beginning, Vexoria agreed. Then, with a look that held more warmth than any she had shown him before, but perhaps only a beginning. As the shuttle settled onto the deck of the Earth vessel, Nathaniel found himself wondering what the true prophecy had meant about transformation. Perhaps it wasn't about genetic offspring or political alliances at all. Perhaps the transformation began with two individuals from vastly different worlds, finding common ground despite everything that should have kept them apart. It wasn't the destiny that had been written for him, or for Vexoria. But as they rose together to face whatever came next, Nathaniel couldn't help feeling that it might be something even better, a destiny they would write for themselves. The shuttle door opened, revealing Admiral Harmon, Captain Okafor, and a contingent of armed guards. Behind them, Earth hung in the blackness of space, blue, beautiful, and for now at least, still safe. Nathaniel took a deep breath and stepped forward, Vexoria at his side. The future of two worlds now depended on what happened next. But for the first time since this strange journey began, he faced that future not with dread but with hope. After all, the stars had brought them together. Now it was up to them to determine why.